It's week 2 of the NFL. Who are the top waiver wire targets? We're going to break it down right here on What's Your Fantasy? What's going on, everybody? It's your host, the WayneBreezie, Crystal Peachy B. We're in the place to be. I like saying that. It just takes me back to the 80s, you know. Peachy, week 1 of the NFL fantasy football was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Any surprises? Week 1 that just said, you know, oh, snap. Like, who snapped for you in week 1?
You mean who snapped good or who snapped bad?
Let's go. Yeah, I didn't realize it could be used in both ways. Who snapped good? Let's start with the who snapped good to Peachy. Like, who was a oh snap? And then we're gonna be like, oh snap. All right, that's how we're gonna do it.
I would have to say that you know what? I would have to say that I was surprised with J.K. Dobbins that he snapped.
Interesting. That's a good pick. Good pick. I you know, I'm gonna go with a running back too. I'll go with 49ers running back Jordan Mason. I thought he came out and he said, feed me, see more, got the ball, and did his thing.
He was snap.
He was it was just a running back week.
2 snaps in a circle.
No, but here's the crazy thing. All the tight ends sucked except for one. Isaiah Likely was not a top 12 tight end.
Right.
He outscored every tight end in football. Right?
Amazing.
So he better be on your waiver wire. We're going to talk about that. And then I just thought it was all about the running backs. I think the only wide receivers that kind of went off, Tyreek Hill.
Of course.
I'm trying to think. Like Tyreek Hill. Like it was just Tyreek Hill. Like, and so like all the top wide receivers didn't really do much. So it was a weird week, but it was definitely
a very weird week.
It was definitely the week of running backs. Because if you didn't pick Jordan Mason, if you didn't pick J.K. Dobbins, who was a surprise, Saquon Barkley had a day.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And set people off right. He took he just had a day. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
And so Giant fans all across the league, all across the world were probably crying me a river. But hey, that's on y'all. You know, you should have never
having like candlelit services and everything like that. Like they're so depressed. And then they're looking at their team and they're like, just don't understand this. The only thing about Saquon is like, I didn't think he was going to go off like that, but I knew that he was going to be like a really great addition to Philly. So that's why I didn't put him as my snap player. But he did have a day though. Good Lord.
He did. I mean, he proved that if you give him an offensive line, he can be Superman.
Yes.
You don't give him an offensive line, he's just going to be a man.
Right.
And so that's what he did. Now, listen, we're going to talk. This episode is fully about the waiver wire ads. Now, we got some ads. I got them put together. Peachy will go through them. And this is going to be fun. All right. This is going to be fun. And we're here to have fun. So bear with us as we get this set up. Do I got one box up here? Let me hold up, Peachy. Let me see if I can edit this layout and add another box, because that would be cool. I don't know if I can. Nope. See, I'm messing it up, so I'm not even gonna do it right now. It's okay. It's okay, because I got another layout that we could use.
Right.
And then I'll just remove this. So that's what we're gonna do. So let me go ahead and remove the banner. All right. So listen, we are sponsored by Locker. So listen, go to Locker, go to your app store, download the Locker app. All right. You're going to want to download the Locker app. When you get to the Locker app, download it. Look for TWBE Sports. That's the league you're going to want to join. We're competing. Football kicks off tomorrow. You do not want to miss out on all the cool stuff that they got going on. As a matter of fact, here we go right here. Let's just bring this up. They got a $5,000 prize pool. It's free to play. It's only for week 2. It kicks off Thursday night football. Bills versus Dolphins. So make sure you go ahead, join TWBE Sports. All right, join that league. You're going to want to be in a league where we can compete with one another. And that's what's cool, all right? So go ahead and join that. All right, Peachy, you ready to get to this? This is about to be crazy. The quarterback that I think that everybody needs to pick up off the waiver wire, because I know no one in their right mamas drafted him, It's Baker Mayfield because he baked the cake as fast as he could. He put up 29.7 points in fantasy football. He had 4 touchdowns, and he was looking good out there on the football field.
Let me tell you. So people was sleeping on Bake, like a lot of people like to call him and stuff. And Bake showed the world why you just can't sleep on him. Like you just got to keep him there. You got to remember that he is an actual quarterback, and and he balled. And so this week they played Detroit. Now I know people are like, "Oh, well, there's no way that you would," but let me tell you, Detroit has some holes in that defense. The defenses, I think that Baker can attack some areas in that defense, and he's got some really good playmakers. We know he's got the incomparable Mike Evans, of course, always. They have
Mr. Consistent himself, right?
Always. Chris Godwin, he still has him. Like he has all these different ones that he has. He also has a pretty decent running game. So Baker Mayfield is definitely someone that you want to pick up off the wire. Definitely.
Good point. Against Detroit he's playing Detroit this week. The Rams were able to put up 20 and take Detroit to overtime. I feel like, the Rams lost Puka Nacua in that game, but Baker Mayfield has his full arsenal, and don't sleep on Rachaad White. He's a lot more of a powerful running back than Kyren Williams is. So they're going to be looking to do damage, but you're going to want to pick up Baker Mayfield off the waiver wire if your quarterback like Jordan Love took an injury. He's not playing. You might want to pick up Baker Mayfield in place of Jordan Love. So we go to the running backs. We talk about J.K. Dobbins. Now, a lot of people were skeptical on picking up J.K. Dobbins because this dude can't stay healthy. But week 1, he was healthy as an ox. This kid rushed for over 134 yards. He put up 22.9 points in fantasy football. He had catches. He had touches. We're talking PPR here, so receptions matter. Why should they pick up J.K. Dobbins, Peachy, off the waiver if he's available?
First of all, what was crazy about this is that I was one of those people that was kind of skeptical about him because they kept talking about how they were going to, do the running back by committee. I think they call it the RBBC. And
did you just make that up?
No. I think Harbaugh said that,
RB running back by committee. RBBC. That is crazy.
Yeah. So so that's what I thought was going to happen. But apparently he is the one that is going to get the share of the load for whatever reason. So you definitely want to pick up J.K. Dobbins. There are a few running backs that are injured, such as Raheem Mostert in Miami, and also Devon Achane. I always name her Achane. Is also a game time decision. Not sure if he's going to play or not. So you definitely want to make sure that some of these teams that have these running backs that are not up to snuff, or if you can't get some of the other running backs, like a Jordan Mason or someone like that, you definitely want to look at JK because the Chargers playing. I didn't forgot. Oh my God.
The Chargers are playing the Panthers.
Oh, yes. See, and that's all you need to know.
Whoever plays the Panthers, you start them. How about that?
The Panthers just lost their most important piece on defense in Mr. Derek Brown for the season. They were already bad in on defense in all of the phases, like the line, the linebackers, the secondary, the whole 9 yards. They were atrocious. So you can run right through them like butter. And without Derek, you definitely want to pick up any running back that's going against that team. Just like Breezie just said, you want to pick them up.
Pick him up. You got to go get him, man. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
Listen, I know a lot of people still are skeptical. They might thought it was a one-game thing. No, this kid out of the Ohio State had promise. He just had injuries after injuries in Baltimore. Jim Harbaugh knows him very well because he ran all over Jim Harbaugh's Michigan Wolverines. And you can see that they're doing a good job with J.K. Dobbins. It's still a RBBC, but he's the explosive running back. So you might get the 64-yard run off of him when you might get 64 yards total from all the other running backs. So definitely pick up J.K. Dobbins. He should be available in just about every league out there because of other running backs that are going, a lot quicker, like Jordan Mason, 21.2 points he had against the Jets. He had one catch for 5 yards, but he had 147 yards on the ground and a touchdown. He had 2 touchdowns. One got called back. Jordan Mason might just be the new feature back as long as Christian McCaffrey is out. Now, I don't expect him to be available in many leagues because a lot of people drafted Jordan Mason as a backup running back on their team, but if he's available, he has to be your number one waiver wire target, right?
Yes, 100%. I know that a lot of people were, kind of making fun of and kind of nervous, like, oh, of course, somebody's going to pick up, Mason and whatever. But now let's see who's laughing. So, because during the game, they were talking about that you have this situation where you have people that were just running to try to like put him in there during the game. And they even talked about it. Like they literally talked about it during the show and stuff like that. They were saying that that people were, needed to like run all over themselves to go and try to grab him if he's not already snatched up. I have him in 2 leagues because I have McCaffrey and I just got him as backup just to put him on my team or whatever. I'm glad I did because even though I lost one of the leagues by like 0.08, but I'm still happy that I had Mason. Just like Breezie said, as long as Christian McCaffrey is out, he's going to be good. And I think that if Mason plays in this Vikings game, I still like him to be huge in fantasy this week and to put up some really great stats.
Should be interesting. They have they have one of the top running defenses after week 1. They're actually number 6. So they didn't allow the Giants to run. So we shall see. We shall see. Right. Jordan Mason, I expect them to game plan now for Jordan Mason. They know that he likes to run outside, inside. So we'll see what happens. But if he's the bell cow for the 49ers and you need a running back 1, he's the guy you're going to want to get. Now, again, he may be unavailable in most leagues because like Peachy said, she drafted him just to back up in the normal draft. Jordan Mason was taken in the normal draft. Once they found out he was running back 2, people snatched him up to be their running back 2s. But if he's available, in some leagues he's available. If he's available, you better go get him before he's not. Isaiah Likely. I'm the only person that drafted this tight end in any league, and I left him on my bench. I left him on my bench because I also had Travis Kelce. I also had a Sam Laporta. I also had one of those, and I'm in different leagues, guys, so I don't have him in every league, but I'm just saying
right.
He was on the bench because, matter of fact, I drafted Mark Andrews and him and put Andrews in the starting lineup and Likely had the game. Now, listen, Likely's going to be the guy that's probably going to be the one that's featured a little bit more. I expect teams to game plan. The Baltimore Ravens like to run 12 personnel a lot out there on the football field. You're seeing a lot of teams run 12 personnel a lot, even Kansas City. So even though Travis Kelce didn't get the points, Noah Gray and their other tight end, they were getting the yards because they like to run 2 tight end sets as well. So Isaiah Likely, 26.1 points week 1. How you feeling about him? Definitely got to pick him up if he's available, right?
Definitely have to get Likely. It seems to me like I'm not sure what's going on with Andrews. Maybe phasing him out. No.
Definitely not phasing him out, Peachy. What's happening is defenses are gearing up for Andrews. They know what Andrews does, so they're taking him out of the game, and this is leaving Isaiah Likely over underneath, one-on-one, finding holes in the zone. He's more of the, like, remember when the Niners had Vernon Davis and Delaney Walker?
Mm-hmm. I do remember that.
That's the deal.
Okay.
That's what's going on. So you prepare for Vernon Davis and you live with whatever the other guy does.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So the Ravens are playing the Raiders this week.
Ooh, R&R.
So
Ravens at home too. That's a big thing.
yes, they're at home. Their tight ends do perform really well at home. Baltimore was on the road to start week 1 in Kansas City. It's kind of different. That whole atmosphere is crazy. Now that they're home and they're comfortable, I would say these tight ends are going to go off. I don't see them, from what I'm hearing, using Lamar Jackson as much as they did as a runner like they did. I think that Lamar is going to be out there kind of tossing that ball around a little bit. And with the Raiders, you can. So I'm looking for big things from Likely. So definitely pick him up.
There you have it. Big things from Likely. Just to let everybody know what the Raiders did last week, Brock Bowers had a mother freaking day. I mean, Brock Bowers was probably the second best tight end out of the tight ends. Like, listen, 8 targets, 6 receptions, 58 yards. He didn't have a touchdown. But listen, that was the most production from a tight end other than Isaiah Likely. No cap. So they're going to have their hands full. Isaiah Likely is like a Brock Bowers. He's a weapon. He's not just a tight end. So let's see what happens. The Raiders are stupid, too, because they got 2 tight ends. And never mind. This is not that show.
I know it, though. But I know where you're going.
This is not that show. All right. This is a kid that may be available in some leagues. And he is a big home run hitter. I'm talking minimum plays, but big yardage. Rashid Shaheed from the New Orleans Saints, wide receiver. His kid is a speed demon, and he's usually the guy that takes the top off the defense for Derek Carr. He finished with 16.3 points. Again, his kid had like 3 targets, and one of them was for like 73 yards. And a touchdown. So you want to probably pick him up if he's available. People drafted him. People might have been on to him. They were on to him last year. He's actually doing the same exact thing he did last year. Peachy, what are your thoughts on him?
I think that you're right, what you're saying about Rashid Shaheed. I also think that even though they're playing Dallas, I do think that there's going to be some opportunities. I see Chris Olave getting covered a considerable amount. So I really feel like that Shaheed is going to be the one that is going to be able to get the most targets. I know one thing about Derek Carr is if he sees that Olave is covered like consistently, then he will find someone else, and Shaheed will probably be that receiver that he locates. So definitely that's a great waiver wire pickup if you can still get him. But like Breezie said, a lot of people drafted him. So hopefully you'll get lucky. And if you need a wide receiver because one of your wide receivers might be out or underperformed, Jamar Chase, and and you want to have some insurance, then definitely if you can snatch him off the waiver wire, then pick him up.
Pick him up. All right. So check this out. I really do like this kid. They did take away Amari Cooper, the Dallas Cowboys, in their first week matchup against Cleveland. They did take him away. They limited him to like very minimal, like 2 catches, 16 yards. But the receiver that did go off was the quicker, smaller router guy, and Jerry Jeudy. Now, he didn't go off, but he did have like the most amount of number of catches. I think Jerry Jeudy was targeted 8 times. He had 3 receptions. So he was the second most targeted. I do apologize. Amari Cooper was the most targeted. Elijah Moore also had 6 targets. But when I'm thinking of Elijah Moore has the speed to take off the top as well. But Jerry Jeudy finished this game with 25 yards. And so that with Shaheed's speed down the field, he could give the Dallas Cowboys secondary some fits, right? And that's what you want. Yes. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you want. So that's what you need. That's what you want. Pick him up if he's available. Got to get him. And speaking of Dallas Cowboys, I got Brandon Old Man Cooks because I feel like he's played for every team in the NFL. And he's going to face every team in the NFL. And one of the teams he's going to face this week is the Saints. And that's a former team he played for as well. And the dude does exactly the same things on every team. Doesn't matter if it's the Saints, the Texans, the Patriots, the Cowboys. he finds a way.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. He does do the same things. He plays the same way on every single team that he's been on.
Little
He is
sneaky mother trucker, right?
right. He is very predictable. Definitely do not sleep on him though, because again, the Saints defense. Well, we're trying to kind of play a wait and see game to see how good the Saints defense is because of who they played last week. So we're trying to see, but you definitely, if you can get Cooks off the waiver wire, then you absolutely want to do that, especially if you're in need of a receiver. Definitely one to complement CeeDee Lamb, or just one where one of your wide receivers didn't perform like they were supposed to. Like if you were like me and you drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., which is the biggest upset that I've had. So I'm just saying, it's wow.
Upset because, he wasn't really targeted much. And the target that he got was for 4 yards. But yeah, I get it. But I think the kid's gonna be fine in the NFL. Looking at Marvin. So you could say Marvin Harrison Jr. had a bad week. He did, fantasy football wise, but
Yes.
overall, he also wasn't heavily targeted. So we'll see what happens. It happens when you become a number one. You come a number one wide receiver, teams defenses are looking to do what? Take you away. That's why Brandon Cooks, you're going to want to pick him up, because I can tell you right now, CeeDee Lamb is going to be the most targeted receiver for Dallas, but
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks is going to be right there, right behind him. That's a guy that Dak Prescott trusts, and that's a guy he's going to get the ball to. He also had a rush and a carry in that game as well, but for only 5 yards. He's got to get 10 yards to get a point. But 4 receptions on 7 targets for 40 yards, right? But that's 8 points right there, plus the touchdown, so that's 14 points. And if you're looking for points, he can get you 14. You might want to go ahead and pick up Brandon Cooks off the waiver wire. Last receiver on the list, Demarcus Robinson. Now, he didn't score a touchdown, but you could tell that Matthew Stafford started to get comfortable with him. I think he finished with about 8 points in fantasy football. But with the injury to Puka Nacua, I expect teams to find a way to defend Cooper Kupp and eliminate Kupp. So who's going to be the next man up? I like Demarcus Robinson. What are your thoughts on him?
I am absolutely in agreement with this, with Puka not being there, and they're not sure when they're going to get him back. They're definitely going to have to find a way to get Robinson more involved. And Breezy's right. Like, you could tell that that's what they were leaning towards, is getting him involved. They're going to be trying to get all over Kupp, and Stafford's got to have somebody to throw it to. I think Robinson is going to have a pretty big game. I'm trying to remember who the Rams play.
Rams are playing the Cardinals.
Oh, yes, definitely. So it's definitely going to have a big game. He would be close to the top if you can try to get him on the waivers, and I'm sure that you can. With the injury to Nacua, if you have Nacua, put Nacua in your IR or whatever they call it, RES in the NFL world, and other people call it different things, but definitely try to get Demarcus Robinson.
Going through the Rams, going through the Cardinals week 1 against the Bills, the Cardinals did a pretty good job at limiting what the Bills did in the receiving game. 3 targets, 3 targets for James Cook, 3 targets for Khalil Shakir, 2 targets for Mac Hollins, 5 targets for Keon Coleman, and you know what? Hold up. 1 for Ray Davis, that's their running back. Curtis Samuel, 2. Dawson Knox, 2. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 2. Dalton Kincaid, 2. Ty Johnson, 1. Here are the receptions. 3, 3, 2, 4, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1. I don't know. They may try to limit the best receiver that went off on the Cardinals was the rookie Keon Coleman, but I think Demarcus Robinson can add some type of value to the Rams. So the Rams will try to look to get the ball to him. He's really good in space. Hopefully he can get you that production that he got last week, and if not, and get a TD. Because what I'm looking at is he kind of reminds me of Khalil Shakur. Shakur had 3 receptions, 42 yards, and a TD. So let's see what happens right there. Right, that's 7 points right there plus the TD, so that's 13. If you can get 13 to 15 points from Demarcus Robinson, that's a bonus. That's great. That's amazing.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. And then you got to remember that it is Sean McVay out here doing this or whatever. So I'm sure that he's going to find a way to get his receivers the ball. He 100%. Definitely will. Absolutely.
100%. Last but not least, we got the defense that everybody needs to go and run and pick up, and that is the Los Angeles Chargers. All right. Even if you have it, I'm not trying to tell people how to run their teams, Peachy, but even if you have a defense and you got a position you could spare because you don't want to lose your defense,
yes,
you might want to get this defense. Why? Why should they run and pick up the Chargers defense?
You should sprint to go and get this Chargers defense because they are playing the Carolina Panthers this week.
There it is.
And Bryce Young and company may be not only the worst offense in the league, has the worst quarterback in the league, but they also...
I don't know if Bryce Young is the worst quarterback. I think he gives Daniel Jones a run for his money. I think it's close, right?
It's very close, but they will be playing the Panthers. I look for the Chargers defense to eat and more eat this. I really do. This Sunday game at 1:00 is going to be fun.
I couldn't agree more. I picked them up in every league. I don't care if I got a top tier defense. I don't care if my defense is San Francisco 49ers. I went and grabbed this Chargers defense because I don't know about you, but it's fantasy football and I'm just trying to win, baby. Like I win. I lost in a couple of leagues, which means I'm 0-1. Season's not over, but I'm 0-1. Peachy, before we jump off here, we gave them our waiver wire picks. Let's go through these starts and sits. We're gonna start Brian Robinson, the running back against the New York Giants this week, and then we're gonna sit Calvin Ridley, wide receiver, versus the New York Jets. Would you like to explain to the people why?
I explain why we want to do that because last week in the Giants game, the running backs, being Aaron Jones from the Saints, ran through them like butter.
Butter, baby.
Like melted butter.
We're talking 14 attempts for 94 yards and got pulled out of the game. Butter, baby.
Butter. The reason why that you want to sit Calvin Ridley versus the New York Jets is because our star wide receiver had a pretty bad day against this Jets secondary because who's in their secondary? Nobody but Sauce Gardner. So you definitely want to sit the Tennessee receivers being Calvin Ridley against the Jets.
Yeah, man, just moving forward, unless Sauce is not playing like Sauce, you're probably going to want to sit that wide receiver that week because Sauce definitely gets it done. Brandon Ayuk had 5 targets for 2 receptions, 28 yards. Now, that could have been rust or it could have not been rust. So we don't necessarily know what it had to do with, but that's what you want to do. But if you got Brian Robinson, make sure he's in your starting lineup because he had a hell of a day last week in fantasy football and expect him to have a hell of a day in week 2 against the New York Football Giants, especially since their offense is so bad and that defense is going to be on the field for the majority of the time of that game. Brian Robinson should have a field day, and I believe the Commanders are going to get that win. Well, guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Peachy, any final thoughts before we jump off here on What's Your Fantasy?
The only thing that I want to say is, so we did have a bad snap. Marvin Harrison Jr. was really bad this week. I think he got like 1.4 points or something like that. I do look for him to bounce back this week. So fingers crossed on that one. As far as Jamar Chase, I can't help you there because I don't know what the Bengals are going to do.
That's crazy. Well, if T. Higgins plays, that's good. If T. Higgins plays, it helps out. If T. Higgins doesn't play, it's gonna be rough. You know, we talk about this with the Bengals. The Bengals lost Joe Mixon, and you saw how they looked without Joe Mixon. I think that the Bengals would have put up a much better fight in Week 1 against the Patriots. They would have won the game had they had a Joe Mixon. But without that running back, without a type of running back of what Joe Mixon's caliber, it's going to be a struggle for them, especially if they don't have T. Higgins. So this might not be a good season for Jamar Chase. I'm not saying that he won't get off, but it's going to be tougher than it looks for Jamar Chase. So just hang in there. But thank y'all so much for tuning in to What's Your Fantasy Football, not They Know Ball. We do appreciate you guys. Until the next time, baby, next week, always stay faithful, man. We out this joint. Peace.